Hello world, Satonic here, back with another dose of hacking news. First up, the Zuck might just owe you a bunch of money. A German court has ruled that if your data was included in the famous Facebook data breach of 2021, and there's a good chance it was, then Facebook owes you €100. Even Zuckerberg himself was doxed in the breach, leaking his phone number, where he lived, who he's married to, and sure, you could get most of that from his Wikipedia page, but this level of data was also leaked for over 500 million other Facebook users. We're talking dates of birth, email addresses, employer details, locations, and phone numbers of 500 million people. The breach wasn't really the result of a hack, rather Facebook had this feature that allowed you to search for people by using their phone number, and so I guess it was inevitable that some enterprising cybercriminal would write a script to search random phone numbers en masse, and well, they did, enabling them to scrape the data of 20% of Facebook's entire user base. After acquiring the megadump, it was traded privately between cybercriminals for a couple of years before the inevitable happened and it was posted publicly on the now deceased hacker community Raid forums. At the time, this caused a bit of a meltdown, and a year later, the Irish Data Protection Commission fined Facebook a couple €100 million for their privacy violations. However, whilst governments did get a nice payout, the actual victims of the breach have so far failed to get any compensation because it just can't be proven that the data breach led to any specific criminal activity. But that's a pretty high standard of evidence. I mean, how can you prove that a phishing email you fell for was only made possible because your email address was leaked by Facebook 3 years ago? It's impossible. And now a German court agrees. They said there doesn't have to be any specific misuse of the data, and just the fact it was stolen is enough to warrant some kind of a payout. The court suggests that the level of compensation should be €100, which is less than the €1,000 that the complainant in this case was after, but it's something. You can check whether your data was included in the breach over at Have I Been Pwned, but the bad news is you've kinda got to live in Germany to benefit from this. But hopefully it sets some kind of a precedent. I mean, shouldn't you be the one to receive compensation for your data being stolen rather than some government agency? Let me know your thoughts down below. Next up, the battle between WhatsApp and NSO Group just got a little more interesting. New court documents allege that NSO continued to use WhatsApp exploits even whilst WhatsApp was in the process of suing them for it. So to give you some context, NSO is of course the famous Israeli spyware company behind Pegasus, a world-class spyware tool sold to governments all around the world which helps them hack into terrorists and criminals' phones, and sometimes journalists and human rights activists, allegedly, though you won't find that on NSO's homepage. Pegasus spyware is the definition of noob-friendly. According to court documents, the customer, as in the government agency, only needed to enter the target device's phone number and press install, and Pegasus would install the agent on the device remotely without any engagement. This kind of power is possible because NSO spends a lot of time reverse engineering messaging apps, finding vulnerabilities and developing exploits for them, which are then incorporated into the Pegasus spyware platform. But we've known all about that for years. What the new court documents reveal is the apparent "I don't give a fuck" attitude NSO had whilst they were being dragged through the courts by one of the world's biggest companies. Court documents describe how NSO developed an exploit called Heaven that used a WhatsApp installation server, which is just a fancy term for a modified WhatsApp client capable of sending malformed messages containing the exploits giving them the ability to hack arbitrary WhatsApp users. However, just a few months later, WhatsApp detected and blocked the Heaven exploit, after which, in 2019, WhatsApp sued NSO Group, because would you believe it, using WhatsApp for international cyber espionage doesn't really align with their terms of service. However, court documents say that even after WhatsApp had started this legal process, NSO developed a new malware vector called Erised, seemingly named after that one mirror from Harry Potter. It's alleged that Erised gave governments the same ability to infect WhatsApp users with Pegasus spyware, which NSO has admitted in total was installed on between hundreds and tens of thousands of target devices, a pretty wide range. WhatsApp eventually blocked Erised, but it's not so clear if NSO is still exploiting WhatsApp, as it's being reported that NSO witnesses are refusing to say whether the spyware maker developed further WhatsApp exploits. But the lawsuit continues, as it has done for the past 5 years now. For our next story, law enforcement is once again not very happy with Apple. A new update in iOS 18 is making it much harder for three-letter agencies to pull the data off iPhones. Up until now, it's been relatively straightforward for police to just seize an iPhone and then stick it in an evidence locker for as long as needed until they get around to hooking it up to a forensics analysis tool so they can grab the data off it. This is possible because seized iPhones are very likely to be in what's called an AFU state, meaning that the device has been unlocked at least once since its last reboot. In this state, the phone's decryption keys are still stored in memory, and so it's very likely that a forensics tool, usually from some Israeli company, will be able to grab them. However, in the last week, a document has started circulating in law enforcement group chats warning that iPhones sitting around in evidence lockers are mysteriously rebooting themselves. This has made it way harder for the feds to read the data off them, because once an iPhone is rebooted, it gets put into what's called a BFU state, and those keys just can't be grabbed from memory anymore. This is why caller ID just won't work until you unlock your phone, because your contacts list is still encrypted and inaccessible until the phone is in an AFU state. It was 404 Media who initially reported on these mysterious reboots, after which security researchers discovered that this is down to a new undocumented feature in iOS 18 called inactivity reboot, which causes phones to automatically reboot themselves after being idle for a couple days, putting them into that BFU state. Whilst it's not totally impossible for phones in the state to be cracked by law enforcement, it does make it way harder since they now have to be brute forced, and this brute forcing ability is only usually developed months, if not years, after the ability to unlock a particular phone in its AFU state. But Apple's new inactivity reboot feature only explains half the story here, because that leaked law enforcement document claims that older iPhones are also exhibiting the same behaviour. So there is some suggestion that iOS 18 devices are somehow communicating with older iPhones in their vicinity, perhaps via Apple's Find My network, instructing them to reboot in some way. In fact, the law enforcement document actually advises other agencies that if your AFU devices have not been exposed to iOS 18 devices, take action to isolate those devices now. Next up, one of the cybercriminals alleged to be behind 2024's largest string of breaches has just been arrested in Canada. Connor Riley Mooka, also known as Waifu, has just been charged in connection with the Snowflake hacks. Snowflake is a company that provides cloud storage and analytics solutions to some pretty large corporations. And earlier this year, when the cybercriminal group UNC 5537 discovered that many of these corporation Snowflake accounts, storing huge amounts of customer data, were protected by nothing more than a basic username and password combo, they started scouring the dark web, buying up Snowflake credentials, which had been stolen from employees with InfoStealer malware. Then, thanks to a total lack of multi-factor authentication, they were able to simply log into those accounts and exfiltrate mountains of data. There was a period early this year when it seems every few weeks we'd hear of yet another company falling victim to the wave of Snowflake breaches, with 165 companies affected in total. Connor, or Waifu, has been charged with 10 of these hacks, the biggest of the bunch being the AT&T breach, when the call and text records of nearly all AT&T's customers for a 6-month period were stolen by the gang. We're talking a database that included the phone numbers that each customer had called or texted, and for some of those interactions, even the cell site IDs was included, which could have been used to unmask those customers' IRL location. AT&T managed to negotiate a surprisingly small ransom of just $370,000 in exchange for deletion of the data, but the indictment alleges that from all their breaches, Waifu and his co-conspirators in total profited 36 Bitcoin, roughly $2.5 million. As for how he was caught, a researcher from Unit 221B, who was tracking Waifu and the group, claims that the guy recently made some kind of OPSEC slip-up which might have leaked his identity, but the researcher didn't go into detail. After which, Waifu told a different researcher at 404 Media that he was starting to become worried that he would soon be arrested, and had started destroying data. And I suppose he was right, and the guy is now facing extradition to the US.